I made it to the league. That's right, the big house made it to the NFL. I spent 9 years with the Carolina Panthers, and here's my story. Hey, this is Joe Big House Ken, and we are back for another episode of Words Win Wednesday. On this episode, we're going to track my playing career, which eventually led me to a 9-year coaching career in the NFL. Not the way I thought I'd make it to the NFL, but I made it to the league any way possible. So my football journey started out probably like most others. I got into tackle football at an early age with the Inwood Buccaneers, where my dad was actually on the original 1956 team. I played for the Buccaneers for 3 years, always playing up in weight because I was a little bigger than what my birth certificate said. When I was done with Pop Warner, our middle school, which was really called a junior high, was 7th, 8th, and ninth. So I played my ninth grade freshman year at the junior high, and then I moved on to be a Golden Tornado at Lawrence High School under the legendary coach Rich Mallow, who was actually a teammate of my dad's on the 1961 Rutgers Cup team at Lawrence. And Lawrence High School also produced the legendary Lyle Alzado, who I actually got to train with several times when he was back in time when he was with the Raiders. So my high school career was back then, there were no stars. I'm not even going to guess what kind of star I would have been, but I wouldn't have been a 5-star, that's for sure. I started 3 years on the varsity, and at that point in time, there was no DVDs, there was no internet. It was coaches coming to watch 16 millimeter tape, and I was fortunate to get numerous scholarship offers, and I got to choose where I wanted to go. But during that recruiting process, one coach specifically asked me, what is my goal as a football player? And I told him, I want to go to the NFL. And he looked at me and my dad and said, I'm glad you said that, because if you play college football at the D1 level and that's not your goal, you may not want to play at that level. You may want to think and adjust your goals, because playing D1 football is hard. And those are the type of people we want to recruit, are those who want to pursue a career in the NFL, even though we know that percentage of making it is super small. But there's also a small percentage who are offered a Division I scholarship. So I feel very, very fortunate that I played at the highest level of college football you can, and I chose to go to Wake Forest University for numerous reasons. One, I was highly recruited by them. They recruited me as a two-way lineman. At that point in time, most of the other schools that were recruiting me as an O-lineman only, and we all know everybody wants to play D-line, so of course I was going to go to Wake and be the next Lyle Alzado out of my high school. Actually switched my number to 77 after my redshirt year. But during that redshirt year, this is where things went for a big twist. I went to Wake to be a big fish in a little pond, and there was no doubt that I was going to the NFL, because that's what my sights were set on. Didn't care about graduating, didn't care about much other than getting to the NFL. Spring ball comes. Let me backtrack. First season there, redshirting. I'm only 17 years old. I'm dominating. I'm a scout team All-American. I'm pissing all the old linemen off who've got to play on Saturdays. But I was trying to make a point that I was there for one reason, to be the best football player I could be. Following spring, I'm working my way up the depth chart, getting really close to earning a starting spot at nose guard, which would have put the 4D linemen that would have started for that 1985 season all from Long Island, and we were going to be called the Long Island Expressway, kind of like the New York Sack Exchange back in the day. We were going to have our own spin on that because we were all from Long Island. It was Gary Bollinger from Massapequa who played in the NFL, Bruce Mark, who was from my high school, had a tremendous college career, and Tony Garbazak, who also had a short stint in the NFL. Last scrimmage of the 85 spring, boom, your boy blows his knee out bad. ACL and MCL in the 80s was something no one wanted. And sure enough, get carted off, Surgery the next day. I missed the entire next season. The third season, I start building myself back up the depth chart. Right midway through, we're going up to Army. 50 people from my hometown up there watching. Blow the other knee out, MCL. Wound up playing only 5 games that year. So my first 3 years, derailed. 5 games, 1 red shirt, 2 full years of being active, nothing to stand for. Coaching change. Coach Bill Dooley, the legend of the ACC, comes in. Here's my shot. Work my way back up the depth chart. Go into fall camp as the starting D tackle. Leave fall camp as the starting right tackle on offense. That's right, curveball. They brought in some freshmen that were actually going to be, I'm going to be honest, were better than I was. But they wanted me to play. They appreciated my work ethic and how well I was as a football player. But at this point in time, things had changed on my end as far as what I could do physically from a defensive standpoint, as I'm now coming off 2 knee surgeries on the right knee and a blown MCL on the left. Move to offensive line and actually start 22 games in major college football. With that being said, this is where I want people to understand. I don't look at my college career as a failure. I look at the positiveness of what came out of it. I fought adversity and won. A lot of people would have given up. And a lot of people would love to say they started 22 games in Division I football. So I started to flip my mentality as I got older, not at the time it was occurring, to what I was able to accomplish versus what I wasn't able to accomplish. And I think that's something important that I learned as a coach when I actually got to my dream of going to the NFL. So as my college career wraps up, obviously I'm still thinking about the NFL, but this is when the ultimate bomb was dropped on me, and it was like an atomic bomb. Our trainer at the time, Steve Yates, pulls me in the office and goes, "Hey, I think you're thinking about the NFL. I've got some bad news for you. The NFL scouts who've come by have already written you up as an NFL reject because you probably weren't going to pass a physical." How do you think I felt about that? Not too surprised, but a little angry the fact that these people are looking at notes saying that I wouldn't pass an NFL physical, but yet y'all put me out there and I played 2 full seasons on the offensive line. So it didn't sit well with me, but now I've got to grow up knowing that the chase of being a player in the NFL is over. Next shot, by this point in time, I know I'm getting into coaching, more specifically of being a strength and conditioning coach. I wanted no part of coaching on the grass. So I start my career off, I get married, and I go off to Florida. Spend 2 years at a prep school down there. Boom, get to college. Go back to Wake Forest. Then I land a graduate assistant at Boise State. And this is at the time where I reshifted my goal from going to be an NFL player to getting to be an NFL coach. And at this time, Mr. Richardson, Jerry Richardson, had put in the paperwork to get the franchise in Carolina, the Carolina Panthers. That happened in 1993, and that was my new drive. How can I get to the NFL to be a strength coach? And could I get it to be at the Carolina Panthers? Because my family was from there. My family had relocated there from New York, and my wife's family was from North Carolina. So that was my goal. I want to get to the NFL. More specifically, my dream job, Carolina Panthers. And you can ask several of the scouts that came in, one in particular, Dave Caldwell, who was a scout for the Colts at the time under Bill Polian. He actually called me when I got the job at the Panthers and text me, "You actually got your dream job," because he used to hear me talk about the Panthers all the time. He'd come in to scout our players at Boise State. I spent 8 years at Boise State, moved to Utah, 2 years at Utah, 7 years at Arizona State, just building a reputation with the scouts, putting players in the NFL, whether it's free agent or helping them get there, I should say. I didn't put them there. They did all the work. Fortunately for me, I was able to coach them. Spent 2 years at Louisville, get fired at Louisville. I moved back to North Carolina, and I go to work under Big House Power in the legend, probably the greatest football player ever to come out of Wake Forest, Ricky Prohl's facility, Prolific Park in Greensboro. And if you know Ricky's story, Rick played with me at Wake. Like I said, one of the greatest of all time, maybe the greatest to ever play at Wake. He spent 17 years in the NFL, 2 Super Bowl rings, and he played some time at the Carolina Panthers. So there was a relationship there with Rick and Carolina. I spent 1 year in the private sector, and lo and behold, there's a coaching change at Carolina. They're going to move on for the strength coach. And now here is an opportunity of a lifetime. Will I get my shot? Obviously, Rick had a lot to do with that. My agent at the time was also Steve Smith's agent. Steve could be considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest player, or at least in the top 3 at the Panthers, and also one of the greatest players at the Panthers, Jordan Gross. I coached both of them in college at Utah. I would like to think they had something to do with it. My agent was actually Steve's agent also, and he knew the GM. But the truth is, during this whole coaching search for a new head coach and now a new strength coach, the athletic trainer at that time, Ryan Vermillion, headed up the search for the strength coach. And one of the things that I thought he did that I'd never seen before was he actively went out and watched all of us coach as part of the interview process. Fortunately for me, he liked what he saw. I got the interview against some other people and was offered the job of the Carolina Panthers. I had made it to the league. I always laugh with my wife. It was about 22 years after I was supposed to be drafted. I finally got my shot. And in 2011, I was a rookie strength coach in the NFL for my dream job, the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, there's a lot of people to thank. Obviously, Ryan Vermillion for leading the search, Ron Rivera, head football coach, Marty Herney, the general manager, and Mr. Richardson himself, the owner of the team, for giving me an opportunity of a lifetime. Was very, very fortunate, but we start off my very first year. How do we start off? Boom, lockout. Can you imagine that? Get all this jacked up to be an NFL strength coach, coach with the guys. They lock them out. You don't get to work with them. Very first time I actually met the entire team. I did touch some of the guys right before the lockout in February when I was hired. The very first time we get to talk to the team was the first day of training camp. Now again, I'm getting to learn coach. I'm getting to learn the staff. They're getting to learn me. But the way the rules were stated, Coach Rivera couldn't talk to the team until the first team meeting of the year. But I was going to address the team because we were going out to do a running test, which I call a time trial. And I'm walking down to the field to do it. I'm like, holy crap, here's my intro to the NFL. I got to address the team before our head coach does. So some people call it fake it till you make it. I didn't have to fake it. This was what I wanted my whole life. I had gotten there in a new direction, wanted to go as a player. I got to go as a coach. So I addressed the team. We go through the time trial, and then we're off to the races. First couple of years, because we all in it together, we don't win. Then we rattle off a really good stretch of 4 playoff seasons in 5 years. Then we have our starting quarterback at the time, Cam Newton, one of the all-time hardest workers we had, and tremendous football player, gets hurt. Things start to go bad, and after 9 years, my NFL career was over. People always ask, why aren't you back in? There's only 32 jobs in the whole world. That's an elite job. And I had my dream job for 9 years. And I'll tell anybody, if I ever got back into coaching, I'm never going to say that's my dream job. I had my dream job, but I lived the dream. I'm living the dream today, and I'll live the dream tomorrow. It's just a different dream. But my dream job was the Carolina Panthers, and I got it. I had some cool times. I'll never forget. We played the Green Bay Packers, our first home game in 2011. My dad got to come to the game after the game, give him a big kiss on the head and go, man, we finally made it to the league because of all the support he had given me during my football career. That's right, it was we. We made it to the league. And again, what I learned as as a strength coach in the league is when it comes to my own playing career is after watching them, everybody usually goes through this phase in their lives where if you're a former athlete, the older you get, the better you got, right? In the stories you tell. Well, my story's a lot different. The more and more I watch these guys in the NFL, I was like, man, was I even good enough to get there? Or even good enough to get a shot? And that's what I have to remind a lot of these players. Hey, man, I didn't even get a chance to get cut. And they look at you crazy. And I'm like, if I would have got a chance to get cut, that means I had an opportunity to get there. And I wasn't even afforded that for various reasons. I'm not here to cry about it. I'm just telling you the facts of my story. But these guys have to understand that everybody's career is not going to be a Hall of Fame type career like Luke Kuechly's or Julius Peppers. And hopefully one day some more of the guys that I coached. Jared Allen, another guy that we coached in the Super Bowl year. You've got to look at what did you accomplish and how many people you know would love to be in your shoes. And that's what I have to remind them. When guys would not dress on Sundays and they'd have to come out and run with me and they'd be all upset and I go, and how many of your friends wish they could run with me today? And you're still getting paid on Tuesday. So if you don't want to run with me, keep doing the work in practice, keep fighting a good fight. And if you're good enough and things mix match through the depth chart, mix match through the rosters based off injury or trades or cuts, when you get your opportunity, you got to seize it. And that's what I did. When I was given the opportunity by the Panthers, I seized that opportunity. I did the best I could for those players because I knew if I could get them to achieve their goals, they would help me achieve mine, which is being a winning strength coach in the NFL and possibly winning a Super Bowl. And guess what? We got to the Super Bowl with a 15-1 record and 2 big wins in the playoffs. And it wasn't our day, the day of the Super Bowl, but we were the NFC champions. And again, when you look at it, it's like first loser, but we are champions. It's just not the championship we wanted. So that's a little bit about my journey of how I got to the league. It wasn't the way I thought I would be, but without a doubt, 9 years in the NFL. Wish I would have got 10. I mean, that's a player goal to get a decade, and it sure was mine. I'm 1 year off, but I'm not, again, don't feel sorry for me because I sure don't feel sorry for myself. I spent 9 years in my dream job, a terrific organization around terrific people, and I couldn't have had a better locker room. You talk about how do I have individual success? By the athletes that I had in that locker room. And I can name off, I'll miss somebody. That's how many guys made an impact on me. The vets who taught me how to be a strength coach my first 2 years. And I will single out Ben Hartsock because Ben was crucial when he'd come in and tell me, because he had been at numerous teams and would give me insight on strength, on how he thought strength coaches and what that should look like from my role as a coach. Not necessarily how I program, but just the simple things. And now I told you I wasn't going to do it. Dwan Edwards, another one. Coaching Pep at the end of his years. And then all the guys that I was able to coach pretty much throughout their careers with the Panthers. Cam, Luke. And Cam did a great job with my assistant, Jason Bengucci. A.J. Klein, Shaq Thompson, Thomas Davis, Charles Johnson, Roman Harper, Peanut Tillman. I mean, the list goes on and on. Captain Munnerlyn, pound for pound, one of the strongest I coached. Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, 2 running backs that easily could be high qualified Olympic lifters or power lifters. They were some of the most dominant guys in the weight room we had. Steve Smith, I had him in college and pro. Freaky athlete. Ryan Khalil, one of the best centers ever to play. Jordan Gross, left tackle. Travell Wharton. See, now I'm throwing out names and people are going to get upset because I missed them. Mario Addison, one of my super dogs. I mean, Derek Anderson, we spent more time in my office trying to answer all the problems on the team like we were actually going to have the input to change things as general managers. But again, my journey to the NFL was slightly different and altered than I had hoped, but I fought adversity and won to have a successful college playing career, turn that into a huge run through college and 2 years of high school, and I got my break in 2011 and spent 9 years in my dream job. So keep chasing your dreams, keep fulfilling your goals, and hopefully one day you can have a story like mine. Hey, like and subscribe if you like what we're doing with Words Win Wednesday. We're coming up with new concepts for special editions. And as always, words win. See you next time.